My name is George Burrows. I was born in Chatham, Ontario on May the 4th, 1923. When I grew up, I went to McHugh School. I went as far as grade 8, but I wanted to quit school and go to work with my father. The principal would not let me off for the last month, so I quit anyway. So I wound up having a grade 7 education. And then after that, at least during when I was growing up, I got into the Boy Cubs. Shortly after that, I joined the Kent Regiment Reserve. And that would be in roughly 1938, when I was about 15. And I was in the reserve until July 1940, when the Kent Regiment remobilized as a go into act to be on a war footing. At which point then we went to the armories one night on a Monday night, and we ever used to do training, and we did not wear uniforms that night, and we were told to go back home and put them on because we were mobilizing. So we all went back home, put our uniforms on, come back to the armories, and we took off. We marched down the main drag of Chatham. And of course, the word had spread during the afternoon that we were mobilizing. And the streets were crowded downtown with all the people, because the regiment was made up roughly of 90% of the people came from Chatham and Chatham area. So it was quite a thrill for us. When in the spring of 43, they asked for a draft, more volunteers to go overseas, and I joined that. We're given a month's leave to go down to Chatham, say goodbye to our families and so on. Then we went back to London. We could go downtown. They want us to act normal, don't do anything silly or anything smart, because we were on hush-hush secret orders at that point in time, and nobody knew what was happening or where we were going. Even we didn't know where we were going. We knew we were going somewhere. Anyway, they put us all on this huge ferry in New Jersey, and they took us across the Hudson River to New York, where the Empress of Canada was docked. It was the former Empress of Japan. And we, rather than pull up and load the boat in a normal manner, the ferry pulled up on the very side of the ship where you would never ever think it was a port to get into. They tied up alongside the ship. They had detectives up on land shore to make certain that nobody could see what was going on. And we got on, we sneaked in the ship very quietly. 20 minutes later, we took off back down Hudson, and away we went. We took about 3.5 days to cross over. We landed in Liverpool, no activity whatsoever on the way over. We had aircraft covering us, as well as destroyers and other things keeping an eye out for us. It took us to the Aldershot Barracks, which is an old English barracks outside of London, about 3 or 4 miles away. There was no lights on because you're in the wartime. So when you reach the Aldershot train station, you got to sort of grope around in the dark, see where you're going. All you hear is just orders verbally. I was in the barracks there for about 6 weeks. I think it was 5 or 6 weeks, and then I was transferred into the Royal Canadian Regiment. I was up in the Highlands of Scotland, and we went up there. We were stationed in two little mining towns. One called New Cumnock, and I forget what the other one was. I wasn't in that one. But anyway, we were only there about 3.5 weeks, give or take, when all hell sort of broke loose in a minor way. But everything started to move very quickly, and we reached a point where we had to take all our identification off, our uniforms, our hats, and whatever, tanks, Martin trucks, and everything else, and we started to waterproof all the vehicles so they could go through water on land. Like we were doing landing trainings, we didn't know where we were training for. But then they brought in a big ship. It was a Dutch ship. Once we got finalized on that, then one night when we all just went to bed, and the next morning we woke up, we were at sea. We just slept out so quietly, and we went down the River Clyde to go get out into the sea, and we were told later that there was there was a gentleman there who was like one of our commissioners in wartime. And as our ship and the other ships started to go through the gateway, he saluted each ship as they went through, which was quite an honor, in its own little way. But then we get out to sea. We went around Northern Ireland, headed southeast, down toward Gibraltar. We were out the second day we were out. We were told that we were heading for the Mediterranean. But we didn't tell why, but that was it. So we'll give you more information the following day, which we did. Then they told us that we were going to join the famous 8th Army that captured all of Africa, beat the Germans there, and that was by General Sir Bernard Montgomery. We headed for Malta, which is not too far from Sicily, it's on a more of a southwest direction. We were standing on the port side at the front of the ship, along the rail, just watching the dolphins and whatever. And all of a sudden we heard the destroyers dropping bombs in the water. They had detected a submarine and they were using depth charges. And they came up alongside of us, racing almost full speed, and they were dropping depth charges as they went. Next thing we know, one submarine came out of the water at a 45-degree angle, but 1/3, and the stuff fell right back in the water. It was done for, and the whole crew would die on that ship. So once that was, we made our U-turn again to come back, on the evening of the 9th of July, there was a tremendous storm. Came out of nowhere. And during the night, we had extremely high waves, and we had 3,000 ships in our convoy, the biggest convoy the world had ever seen. And when we finally got in the area where the invasion was to take, which is the very southern tip of Sicily, in the morning we were supposed to start the invasion about 4 o'clock in the morning. We weren't able to do it because of the high seas. We had high seas that were estimated to be about 30 feet high. They came up off the side of the ship to the first open deck. If they'd been up another 3 feet more, it would have plunged right in the deck, right on the deck itself. And what we found, they found the night before we were doing this, that there were sandbars in the water in front of our landing place, where our company was going to land. So they had to send to Malta and bring over a tank landing craft, which holds tanks. Instead, they filled them full of what we call ducks, which is a land-sea vehicle. You just change one gear to the other. And they had to bring those over. And each of the tank holders had 6 of these inside. In order to get into them, we had to, they threw a rope ladder over the side of the ship. And then we would climb on the rope. We were held by 2 sergeants they stayed on the deck. We were held in place until what we call the landing craft, a smaller one, would come up on the top of the wave to right where my feet were, at which point I didn't have to step off on that, and be grabbed by another two corporals on that and ride that down to the very bottom of the swell. When we get down there, then there's a pause before the feet goes back up again. At that point in time, we'd then step inside, get down on our hands and knees, and we'd have to crawl over to our own landing craft, which is one of the 6 items, one of the 6 crafts there. And it took a long time. We were very late in our landing. We didn't get to shore until just as dawn started to break. We hit the sandbar, roll over that, and go up, and then go back on land again. Once we were on land, then we had to go. Our objective then was to go and capture the Pechino airport, which we did around noon that day. It was in action 2 days later. Then from there we went to get north in Sicily. The 8th Army was on the right-hand side of the island. The American 5th Army was on the left. And the Canadians, we were in the middle. We were the spread among sandwich. But we stayed that way until we captured Sicily, which was 29 days later. And then we pulled out for few days rest. And we were getting ready to invade Sicily on September the 3rd, which was the beginning of World War I, as I recall. So I think it was September. But anyhow, that was the day that we invaded Italy, and we kept on going up through there. We didn't meet the Germans until we got about one quarter up the way of Italy. Actually, they went way back as fast as they could get in there. But we kept going till we met them. Italy is very mountainous. We spent a tremendous amount of time in the mountains. We could not use tanks. The mountains are too high. So we had to march. We even used mules to carry materials like ammunition and water and stuff like that. But we used those for a while in the heavy mountains. Then we got done further north. We had a little more ground to work with. We didn't need mules anymore. And we could use Bren gun carriers and things like that to take us where you wanted to go. When we could use tanks, then we would most of our attacks were all done at night, during the night time. One of the most famous attacks that I was ever in was it was a wonderful sight to see. Was our first major attack on German troops. We had roughly 2,000 artillery pieces, side by side, and in front of them there was a big deep valley, like that. And the Germans were on this side. The valley ran along through here. 2,000 guns lined up wheel to wheel along here, and this is what we call a creeping barrage. They would fire the artillery shells over into German territory, and then we would advance under the umbrella, under the artillery. Stay back a little bit, and we were on a time schedule. And then they would move ahead about every 3-4 minutes. We'd make another 5 or 10 yards. And we did that all the way through, but when you turn back and see the guns all firing at once, it was a beautiful, amazing sight. Horrendous. You'll never see it again any other way. From there on, some of the more outstanding things were Ortona, which was a big deal. That was like the Russians and the Germans all called it Little Stalingrad, because it was such a vicious fight. We had our objective when we hit the Ortona area and crossed the river there was we were supposed to take what they called the crossroads, which would be west of the Ortona's right on the coast, right on the east coast. We had get there from the west side. We couldn't cross it because it was just too deep, and the Germans were dug in on our side, so you couldn't always use airplanes or artillery to get them out. So we had to go back in, we'll take a very devious route, that cross over the little valley, the river rather, a convenient spot where we could get away with it, and then we come back to just beneath the crossroads, and we hang left at the crossroads area. We had an officer with us who was not too sure what should take place. Our objective was to take the crossroads. We had got there. We thought we had them, but with the experience that I had from Sicily all the way through, so at this point, you're always looking for places where the enemy may set up machine guns, hide them, take advantage of you. And this is one, I felt this was one of those spots. It was like a normal farm field on the edge of a road, which had a hedgerow, and each be about 2.5, 3 feet tall along the entire front of the field. And the captain turned to the sergeant and he said, "Sergeant, do you think there'll be anything back in there?" And the sergeant said, "I don't know, sir." And the captain stood there for a minute. He didn't know what to do, yes or no. And of course, officers never listen to privates anyhow, even with the most experience. They know they're smarter, so that's the way it went. But I had a feeling we were going to get hit hard. And at that point in time, I was running a 2-inch mortar platoon with myself and 2 other men. And when we told to form up on the road because to march, to go east toward Ortona, which is about 2.5, 3 miles away. When he ordered the troops to get on the road, I keep held my crew at the behind, which we have to be behind them because we're going to shoot shells. We have to be able to shoot over them and safely rather. But when they get all lined up, and there's 4, they got a chance to go off heavy machine guns over, wiped the whole crowd right out. We had 4 or 5 who were just severely wounded, but most of them were killed, and that was pretty well the end of our platoon at that point in time. And when you go in, we get beyond that, then we just at the Rimini, which is the next city north of that. Okay, we had to fight through what is known as the Gustav Line, which is a tough line to break, and then the Hitler Line. But the toughest one of all was the Gustav Line, the farthest one north. And that was around the Monte Cassino area, which was tough. And when we got, there's 1,200 Polish troops were wiped out at taking that particular project. Finally, when we got further up, way up north, you're getting near the end of 44 now. In December of 44, one of the senior officers sent a message over on the phone that said that of the invasion force in our regiment of 756 people, there was only 34 of us left, in which I was one. There were 7 officers, and the rest of us were privates, or corporals, or sergeants. Today, I am the last living one of that 34. I'm the last surviving man of the invasion force that invaded Sicily from the Royal Canadian Regiment in 1943. And from there, once we got up around the end of December, early part of January. I get hit with shrapnel. I was sent back to the hospital. And when I came back up, then when we were reassigned to companies, then I asked for if they had any openings in number 4 platoon, which was a heavy machine gun platoon, which I had trained on pre-war with the Kent Regiment, and I was transferred there. Our job there was to go in to support B Company, 1 platoon in B Company. And there's supposed to be 2 separate rules of authority there. There's one set covers the infantry portion, which is the guards, and the rest of it. Our duty was simply to run the 2 machine guns that we had hidden upstairs pointing toward the enemy. But they didn't leave any other authority other than 1 corporal. And we weren't there. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks, yes, so. And we started to hear noises at night up a long lane where it went from our house down to a small creek behind us toward the enemy line. And we figured then they fired artillery shots, like a box style, 1 on each corner. One day, 1 tomorrow, 1 the next day, and they were just getting the whole thing boxed in, so that when they want to, their intention was to take prisoners, and they wanted to get the whole area blocked off. When they started artillery fire, they would block the whole corner, whole box off, so nobody else could get in to help us. Well, they did that, and we were captured, and then we're taken way up north to what the heck's the name of the town? Bolzano. It was a German prisoner of war camp. I was a prisoner of war for 10 weeks. I was released on my birthday by the American Tank Corps. We were then taken back to American Air Base, and we were flown out the following morning back to our own base down in Bari, Italy, at the south. When we were there, we waited for a ship to come home, to take us back to England rather, and then come back home. And that's pretty well the end, of what there is of that. When we got back home in November, we were discharged from the Army. And then I went to school for business college for almost a year. And while I went to business college, we were given 2 weeks vacation sometime. I went to Grand Bend. That's for my vacation because we had done recruiting there with the Kent Regiment and then the early part of the war. And it had a huge dance floor there. That's why we went there. A lot of us went there. But that's where I met Marion. Was on the dance floor there, and we've been going together ever since. Then we get married in 1948, April 24th. So we've been married 62 years this year. And how many more we have to go? Nobody knows but God. But other than that, when we lived on Kingston Road in Toronto when we first got married. And that's where Daryl was born. And then we got another apartment in the same building, on the same floor, and that's where Janice was born. And from there on, we just took off. I got into sales and been in sales all my life. And that's where I've been retired now, about 24 years. I have two brothers. One's dead now. One died about 5 years ago. He was 4 years older than me. That was Cameron. Then my brother Harold, who lives in Markham, he's 5 years younger than I am. He's still living too. But my father was an undertaker in Chatham. He and my grandfather used to run a monument business in Chatham when they first came to Chatham, and where the used to be a theater by the wharf in Chatham, and that's where they opened the first funeral home was there. Then once they became more successful, they opened a great big one, which is still going today. But they had been in that business for over 30 years. My dad my dad had the license for the funeral homes. You have to have an embalmer. He's the one that has the license. Nobody else can open a funeral home without an embalmer as part of the ownership. So he did that until 1928. Until 1928, when they sold the business. 1929, we had the stock crash. That's when everybody lost a pile of money because of buying stocks and volumes of stock on margin, which is like 10% down. The rest when you catch me. A lot of fortunes were lost at that point in time. My dad, when he quit that, he tried life insurance, sell life insurance, couldn't do it. He then got into a business of selling ice and coal, and I used to spend a lot of time working with him, delivering. Sometimes we'd do over 3-5, anywhere from 10 tons on a day, on a weekend, just selling coal for people, customers, or whatever. Delivering ice, and we deliver ice all summer long. So, and my mother, she was raised on a farm in Chatham. And her maiden name was Cameron, so we're part of the Cameron clan. That's why I like Scotch. But I had an uncle who lived here in Windsor for all of his life. He died many years ago too. Well, because of our age difference, no. Like when you get one 5 years younger and one 4 years older, you're in 3 different layers of association. Like you wouldn't get someone, let's say, who was 16, going with someone who was 12, or going with someone who was 7. My younger brother Harold, he didn't know Cameron and I, because we were both in the army, we were both overseas. So he's a little bit of a different character than what we are. But no, we all did our own thing, But other than that, no, we were not that close a family, really. Not as families should be. We kept in touch with each other, and we used to go come from Toronto to Windsor here and stay with him and his wife Phil. We got along very well, but we weren't like buddies, just about nothing like that. I traveled when I got into the sales business. I started in Singer Sewing Machine for 3 years because I was a manager there once I got going. I gave that up, and I went in selling food products, like restaurants and hotels, things like that, like soup bases, gel, pudding powders, and all that stuff. But I did that for 5 years, and then I moved out of that, and I got into a food brokerage company, and I worked there for a year, and then I was made supervisor of Southern Ontario for them. And we worked there until they lost 4 or 5 or 6 accounts. Of course, when you're in the brokerage business, if you lose 3 or 4 big accounts, then you have to lose staff too, because you don't have the profit to keep them all going. It's an up and down type business. You hire staff when you need them. When you have lots of accounts, when you don't, then you shrink your staff back down again. So when we had 2 supervisors. One, the other one was the brother-in-law of the boss. So figure out who stayed and who went. But then when I left there, I went to Simonize. And I worked at Simonize in Toronto for a year, at which point then I was transferred to Montreal. We had 4 sales managers in Quebec, and the Quebec territory covered Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, PEI, and all of Newfoundland. Big territory, a lot of big jobs to do. But they couldn't do what had to be done. I went down, and I accomplished in 14 months what they could not accomplish in 5 years. At which point then we were transferred back to Toronto as sales manager for Ontario, which is our largest, was the largest area of Canada, the highest sales. So from there, when they folded up 15 years later, I then went to London Life, and I was to work there for 13 years. And then that's when I quit, and I retired from there. I'm pretty well proud of all of my life, really. Because for a young kid who only had a grade 7 education, to advance to a sales manager of an international company, it's a pretty big deal. When you have people who have university education who couldn't do what I did. So I'm pretty proud of my background. I'm very proud of my military career. When we invaded Sicily in 1943, I was exactly 20. I had just passed my 20th birthday. I was pretty young for a kid. I had joined these reserves. The reserve, first of all, was 15 and a half. When we mobilized, I was actually 17 and a half, a little over 17. They put me down as 19 because they all knew me in regiment. But that was how we got away with that. When you go through a war, you fight in the front lines as an infantry soldier for 22 months and survive. That's a terrific thing. But I have to credit God for that. And I don't, I have ever since I was a young man and going to church as a boy, I have always said that God was my best friend. And I still say so today. And I know I've proven it several times by asking for help to do this or do that, and it's been done every single time. But I have someone through God that's guided my life, done everything in it. To be honest, I cannot think back of a single thing that I have thought, I should do this, and go ahead and do it. I've always had a spur of a thought enter my mind to do this. One example, at the yacht club one night several years ago, we had a draw, 50-50 draw. And I was in one room. The draw was in the other end of the club. And when they started drawing the first prize, I started to walk back toward where the draws were taking place. Now, between where I was walking and where they were drawing the tickets, there was nobody around at all. It was completely empty. I got halfway between the 2 rooms, and I had a tap on my left shoulder. So it said I've won. I got up toward the box to do the ticket out, and I had won. Now, I have had things like that all through my life happen. And I credit it all to God. No. those who believe, they can take advantage of it. There's a lot of people who say, yeah, I've mentioned stories like that to a couple of ministers. Even they were amazed. It just doesn't happen. Well, it does happen. It's happened to me considerably all the time. No, I don't have any regrets. We've traveled extensively on trips to the West Caribbean. We have gone down the Mexican coastline from L.A. and back. We have done the Panama Canal tour. We have done the Mediterranean tour right down through Turkey and Greece and back. Plus, we have done land tours on top of that again, from here to Vancouver and all through the west, northwest coast. We have no regrets whatsoever. The day the war ended, that would be May the 8th, 1945. Yeah, that's when I got out of POW camp on my birthday, May the 4th. I would be 22, still very young. When we were in Toronto, I read a piece in the paper one year. The cottage properties were going to be non-existent for the next 5 years. And that year, Marion decided, being Daryl and Janice were young, what time we had a vacation together. We hadn't had a vacation at all since we were married. So we looked through the papers, and we found an ads of different cottages, and we phoned this one. And they said, yeah, they had a cottage that they could rent us. It was up on Lake Simcoe, a real trash dump. Didn't go back there anymore. The checked some more than the following year. And we got up on Lake Muldrow, where we went there for I think it was 2 years. And the third year, when I went there, we were looking at the lady that owned the cottage. They also owned the boat. They had a small marina there. And they'd take us out on the boat, Marion and I, two or three times a week. Just take her out to the lake or whatever. Then Lil used to say, well, this lot's available, and this lot's available. And if you're looking for a cottage, or thinking about it, you can buy any of these. So there was one particular lot that I seen that was right down to the water. And I put a bid on that for $350, and it was accepted. The following year, I worked with my buddies, who were next door neighbors in the first house in Shelwood Avenue in Toronto, and they're both carpenters. And I helped Roy to build a cottage of his own up near Peterborough. That's where I got some more carpentry experience. But he and I went up there. We built that. You know, he used what they did. They built the home show for the CNE every year. It's only up 2 weeks and tear it down. So they can buy all the lumber for the entire show for $800. So Roy would buy half, Vic would buy half. That's $400 each. There's enough in each half to build a cottage. So the following year, I bought half, and Vic bought the other half. So we hauled that up to the house on Painted Post Avenue, the house there. We put all that in the backyard there, and then when I put that in the backyard, of course that was the year we moved to Montreal. So we had to move it all up to the lot. We did that. And the following year I came back and I put all the footings in. All by hand. There's no machinery, no hydro, no nothing. You had to dig your own holes, mix your own hand, haul your own sand. And I mixed all my footings and get all the block up. And went back to Montreal, and the following year we were moved back. And I put the floor on. No, I put the floor on the previous year. After I cut the trees down. We came back the following year, then I finished off the walls and the roof and whatever, and from there on we went forward with that. When we did that, then we had seen an advertisement in the paper. We were looking at maybe buying a house somewhere in the Caribbean, dreaming, dreaming along with me, sort of. But luckily I stopped in. For some reason, I have no idea. Again, this is another one of those situations. I was driving down Jarvis Street in Toronto, Sherbourne Street, I'm sorry, and I passed a real estate office. It was international real estate. For some reason or other, I pulled over, parked the car. I said, I want to go and see this guy. So I went in and told him what my thoughts were. And he said, no. I said, you don't want to do that. He said, because down there, he says, only 2 seasons of the year. Up here, you got 4. He said, you won't adjust to it. It's too hot. He said, don't do it. Okay, so I took his advice and canceled that idea. I was driving along Bloor Street West another day, and we passed another real estate office, which I had read in the paper. And I thought this was Florida properties. So I went in to see Ed. And he had a map and pictures and everything else with the lots. And if we could fly down and see it for $99 each return, plus all our meals, hotel, and everything. So we bought 2 tickets. We gave him a deposit for the land. If we didn't like it, we could get the money back. So we did that. Went down and seen the lot, bought the lot. The following year, went down in 1980 and built a house on it. When I retired in 85, when we moved down there, we spent 6 months down there and 6 months up at the cottage. One time we had the house in Toronto, the cottage up north, the house in Florida. Yeah, for seventh grade education, yeah, that's pretty. I think so too. But anyway, we did all of that. See, so I have nothing. I have no regrets. I've had good cars all my life. I worked in Simon Knight, of course, I had a company car. But even when I wasn't had to have my own car, I always had a brand new car. Except the first one I came back from overseas was a 1940 Dodge. And it had the floor in it was sort of rusted out along the edge, you know. But other than that, no, I've always had good cars. That's just why I had a couple of used cars. Then I get in the new car then. And I've had the one that your mom's driving now I had that for 12 years. Now I got my new one now for, I guess until as long as the rest of my life anyway. But other than that, no, I have nothing. I have no regrets whatsoever. During my childhood, this is the one thing that affects Daryl and I, because he was growing up and I was on the road. And he was Marion. It's up to Marion raised Daryl and Janice early on. She did and then her mother helped us do that, you know. But no, they were all right. They did good. But Daryl and I were not able to bond at all because I wasn't home that long enough. And I had put in a lot of hours in with reports and doing this and doing that. And when he would come home, you're on the road, you're traveling all week, and you want to rest. You're tired. You don't want to take the family out anywhere because you've been doing it yourself. So that's what went on there. Oh yeah. Well, since we retired, I've had more time and more opportunity to spend with Daryl and Janice too, you see. Well, see, we had more time to spend with Janice because Daryl moved. Daryl got a job down here, and he moved down here. He's down here, we're in Toronto, so you don't get together that often. He would come up once in a while, but not that often. And then once we got the house down south, then he'd come down. He and the gang would come down there. We'd get together. No, I have a good appreciation for both Daryl and Janice. Both good kids. All kids have fun when they're young and they do crazy things, and we did too. So what the heck? Who can blame somebody else for doing what they did or didn't do? But that's life. That's life in the whole run. That's all that is. No, you don't make a lot of friends in the Army, Kyle. In your own platoon, you know everybody, but you don't really make a lot of friends though, because once you go into battle, hell, he killed today, he's killed tomorrow. You don't get a chance to make friends. You get new recruits or new members brought up in the morning, hell, or some of them were killed that very night. You don't get a chance once you hit the battle. But I always appreciated all the guys we had. But I had one close friend was a corporal, was Ron Dedman. He was the corporal on duty when we were captured, POW. And he and I chummed around after that, after the war, when we get out of POW camp. He and I chummed around, rode together back and forth for a long time, until he died many years ago, of course. But the friends I had was Mike Kish from London and George Vidler from Erie. George died recently. Mike and Kay are apparently in very bad health. Other than that, no, I had a friend by the name of Doug Tope when I was a kid, and Tassie Baxter, and there were some few other odds and odds kids, you know. But I had a bicycle, because I used to work in a grocery store for $3.75 a week of my full wages. And if I made a mistake making change, it was taken out of my $3.75. So if I made a lot of mistakes, I would work all week for nothing. However, I never had that happen. I used to count my change very well. The worst day that you could have, and there are many of those, is when you're in a position and the enemy is firing artillery shells and they're landing right where you are. I've had situations, for example, when we were in the second or third day in Sicily. We had gone second day go over here. We had a major who was our second in command of the regiment. There's some officers pulled some awful stupid stunts. They're looking for bravery or medals or whatever. But we had a German tank was approaching. We could hear it. We didn't see it yet. But we had a big field with trees along both sides, and a vacant field all the way in the middle of it. The tank was coming from this way. It's at the edge of that one. He turned to a private who had a Piat gun, which was for taking out tanks. And he asked the guy if it was loaded. The private says, "Yes, sir, it is." He said, "Well, give it to me." He took it. He ran off to my right, about 10, 12, maybe even 15 feet. He laid down on the ground, and I was laying flat right where I was right here. He fired the Piat, and the tank got in the middle. It hit the tank all right, but the shell with the detonator was dead. And the tank stopped, and turned the turret around, shot right through the head, and killed him dead. That shouldn't have been his job. That should have been the Piat operator's job. But he lost his life by trying to, be brave or show how good he was, whatever it was. His intentions were the best. No doubt about that. But it's the thing that he was not in his domain to do. Well, my main life motto is to treat others as they treat you. Do unto others as the Bible says. Do unto others as they should have them do unto you. But treat people fairly. Be honest with them. Don't use people, which a lot of people figure that's fine to do. But I never believed that way. The reason we've done this partially, and I have written my own autobiography. Now I don't know when I'm going to get it printed or not. But my personal attitude of doing the biography, and of course of doing this as well, is for any of the future members of the family who is in history as much as I am, who look back and say, well, that's what my great-great-great-great-grandfather did, and then here's what he did. That was what so-and-so, and here's what he looked like. I didn't see it when I was a kid. I never had any of that. I knew my one grandfather, but that's all. I never knew my mother's father, because he died before my older brother or I were born. But no, other than that, I'm very pleased. But that's why I did it, because I like the family. I think family should know their history, specifically if it's military, because without the military, Canada will not be a free country. So, where do you go from there?